Hello and welcome to the channel. I am Disco Soup, your host. I am very excited to be offering you the first look at Nichtinea, which is a game that I made. It's my entry in this year's Pocket Quest 2025 challenge on DrivethruRPG, following the theme of dreams. So, what is Nichtinea? Well, Nichtinea is a tabletop RPG, but it is also a roguelite metroidvania. If you're familiar with the term, that might sound confusing because roguelite metroidvanias tend to be video games. Roguelite refers to the fact that you play a run, you usually end up losing, and then you upgrade something about your character or your game to make the next run more interesting, challenging, fun, and exciting. A metroidvania refers to games like, Metroid or Castlevania, where you platform through areas, you unlock new places, you discover secrets, you sometimes backtrack, you gain new abilities. My goodness. Oh, it appears that we have an ad here. I'm showing you on playingcards.io. Well, with that said, we'll get into the game. In Nichtinea, you play the hero, Nichtinea, who is a small... I'm not going to say she's a pixie, but if you've ever seen Fern Gully as a child of the 90s, Nichtinea is a creature very much like that. She has moth wings, she lives in the woods, and she is fighting to discover the source of the corruption of the nightmares of the people in her village. There's more lore in the rulebook, and then much more coming in the upcoming expansions, but I don't want to give a lot of spoilers for you. So how do you play? You're going to need a pencil and some paper to keep track of your HP, the amount of dewdrops you have, which is a currency that also kind of acts as your XP in the game, a 54 card playing deck, and a few dice. We've separated the deck, and this is a really cool innovation. This is kind of what I'm most proud of. We separated the deck into 3 piles. The first pile is called the artifact deck, and you begin the game with just the aces in the artifact deck. If you can see here, there are 4 cards. Next, you place all cards with ranks 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, or 7 in the exploration deck. And after that, you place the 8s, the 9s, the 10s, the jacks, the queens, and the kings in what's called the danger deck. The jokers help to save your game between sessions. You place the black jack here when you put it in the box, or the black joker, and the red joker here to keep the deck separate. Because as you play, you will unlock new cards. The end game comes about once you've got not just the aces here in the artifact deck, but the 2s, the 3s, the 4s, the 5s, and the 6s, which means that you've rebuilt your village, because each of those cards in your artifact deck helps to rebuild a specific portion of the village, or it's a new NPC that can teach you more about the story of the game. The cards in here also act as the weapons you can use between plays. Then here, the exploration deck starts out with the lower cards of the numbers, and as they migrate to the artifact deck over plays, you're also going to be eventually bringing cards from the danger deck. Higher value cards tend to be more dangerous opponents, more interesting rooms, trickier traps, and stuff like that. So we'll start. Your first thing to do is to draw 2 cards from the artifact deck and select one. On your first run, they're both aces, which have a value of 1, and we've got a suit elemental rock, paper, scissors system going here. If you've got a weapon that's a spade, it's strong against an enemy that happens to be a diamond. Diamonds are strong against clubs. Clubs are strong against hearts, and hearts would be strong against spades. I like the ace of spades, so I'm keeping that. So now we're ready to get our run started. The first thing you do is see which room you're going in. You are eventually going to try and make 10 rooms in your run, and then fight a boss. So we draw our first room, and normally, I'm new to the platform, playingcards.io, but I like to rotate my rooms so that I play them horizontally in a line here, and then I place enemies below each room as I encounter them. They're placed vertically. If there's traps, I do them horizontally, and if there's loot, I do those vertically as well. It just kind of breaks things up, and it helps you at a glance see if you ever need to go back and get your run. So every room has an effect. Some actually don't. They're kind of like safer rooms in that sense. But 7s are what's called soft lock. And I'm glad I drew a 7 to start with. So the 7 of diamond is the glowing eye. Or, excuse me, actually, if it were the loot, that would be the glowing eye. It's a darkened portal. So, soft lock, to explain the term, if you've ever played a video game, and let's say it's Zelda, and you're going through, and you see like a bunch of metal loops on walls, and they're in places you can't reach, and you just keep seeing them. You know that you're meant to interact with them in some way, but you really can't yet. And then later on you get the hook shot, and you can use that to pull yourself up to where those metal circles on the wall are. It's similar to that. So a soft locked location here, like a darkened portal, which you can't get any further into it without the glowing eye, which shows you how to activate it. In the first room, it does not have that much of an effect. But if this had been rooms 3, 6, or 9, we wouldn't have been able to get any loot out of it. And in expansions, the soft lock feature is going to be, well, expanded. By getting correct loot, we can unlock the method for getting through soft locks. So now that we know where we're at, a room with a darkened portal, we're going to draw for a bad guy, who's the 5 of hearts. Now, on your first run, the enemies are a little easier in that they're split up by suits in the first part of the exploration deck. So every heart 2 through 7 is a snatcher. Every club 2 through 7 is a burrow grub. The diamonds 2 through 7 are prism spitters. The spades 2 through 7 are stalker beetles. But once you start getting into the 8s, 9s, 10s, jacks, queens, and kings, the enemies become more unique. And this is because those cards 2 through 7 end up migrating to your artifact deck. And so it kind of represents how you make one area safe from the weaker enemies, and you convert it, into a rebuilt village, but then you're exploring more outward. So it's a progression. So right now, what we're facing is a snatcher. And a snatcher has 1 HP, and he has this nasty habit of stealing our money if we roll low. I'll explain how that works now as we fight him. You roll 1 die. This is for disadvantage or advantage. Unfortunately, you notice how the colors are different? That's right. This guy is a heart enemy, so we do actually have to roll a disadvantage against him, and I'll show you how it works. Watch. We got a 2 and a 4. Now, we'd want to take this 4, but we're going to have to take this 2. So, we lose 1 HP, we're down to 2. If we had any dewdrops, which is the currency and XP of this game, he'd have just straightened up eaten 1. So now we roll again. Boom. 4, 3. Okay, so this is what's called a mixed success. A 1 or a 2, as we rolled before, is a straight up failure, where you take damage and suffer any consequences that the enemy's ability has. On a roll of 3 or 4, some enemies have abilities that trigger even on a mixed success. He does not. We take 1 damage, but we also deal 1 damage, so we're down to 1 HP. But we defeat him. And it's okay. As you play, you'll unlock the ability to have higher HP when you start out. You unlock more of what's called an affix system for your weapons, which allows you to fight more effectively. You'll get into those later. But we're going to see how much money we get for beating this guy. How many dewdrops? 6. Okay, so we have 6 dewdrops. Not bad. I'm going to... There. Perfect. Use that to hit roll to 6 as well, to remember how many dewdrops we've got there. Now we roll, or rock on. 2 7s in a row for the room. So it's another soft lock room. All the 7s are soft locked, but for different effects. So now our enemy is the 2 of clubs, which is a burrow grub. And a burrow grub has 1 HP, and his ability is that he does not take damage on a 3 or 4. Now we only have to roll 1 die against him. He doesn't take any damage. But we do. We're dead. Oh no. That said, we got our 6 dewdrops, so we can save them up. And eventually, we can use those to buy new upgrades. Now let's just go ahead, and I'm going to demonstrate, because this is not going to be a very long video, but what would happen at room 3. So room 3 is a 5, and 5 of diamonds is dense grass. It is eerie silence, but no mechanical effect, which is nice because this also happens to be a reward room since it's the 3rd one. We still do have to encounter an enemy here. The 3 of hearts. So that's another snatcher. But now let's say that we've beat this guy. So we're going to roll a 5 and a 5. Wonderful. So we don't suffer any consequences, and he's gone. Assume... Let's see what we would have rolled for dewdrops there. 4, so 10. And then another 6. So we're going to play this out as if we've made it for 3 rooms and gotten 16 dewdrops. Now we get to get some loot. This is a 3 of spades. And on our loot table we can see that it's a weapon. And the 3 is a better weapon than an ace, because of the way that the affix system works. Affixes are some loot that you start to see once you migrate cards from the danger deck into the exploration deck. They show up and you add them to your weapon, and when you add an affix, let's just roll this die here, you see what its value is. It's a 5. So affixes that have, and we would plop it onto our weapon. Affixes that have a value higher than their weapons have lesser effects than affixes that have values lower than their weapons. Basically, it's a random loot generation system that incentivizes having higher level weapons. The trade-off is that the lower level weapons cost less to upgrade, in that you'll eventually be able to put more than 1 affix on your weapon, and also to start with an affix on your weapon. So the lower level weapons are good for getting you through the early game while you unlock the stuff on the higher level weapons. Also, when you migrate certain cards from the exploration deck into the artifact deck, it makes the game sometimes more challenging. So it's a tactical trade-off of what you're hoping to get. So for instance, you could say, I don't know that I want this as my loot. I'm going to chance it. I'm going to face a trap first, which in this case is a 3 of clubs. So let's just say it's a 3 of clubs right here. And on my trap table, I can see that is a snare. Roll equal to or over the value of the trap to avoid it. 6 is automatically avoid. Okay, so oh no, we got caught in the snare, which would give us the consequence of one enemy in the room gets a free attack. That's if there are some rooms or bosses or other enemies that bring traps in during the original combat. The game starts off pretty basic. Room, enemy. And then as you explore, adds these new conditions. If there is not an enemy here, block off access to any loot in the room instead. Oh no! We would have failed and not got anything else. However, assuming we passed the trap, we would have then been able to get a second loot and then be able to choose. Do we want a 3 of spades weapon or a 4 of diamonds? Also, you could choose. You would want to choose based on what part of the village you're trying to rebuild. For instance, 3s help you to rebuild the tavern where you go and rest, and that makes it easier for you to get more HP. Whereas 4s help to rebuild the dojo. And the dojo, if you build it up enough, lets you actually select for more weapons at the beginning of the game. So again, it's all a game of trade-off and exploration. That's all I'm going to be showing you today. I'm just thankful for you staying with us and watching it. I cannot wait to get this in everyone's hands. As I record this, it is the 3rd of May, 2025, and starting tomorrow, you will be able to pick this up as part of the 2025 Pocket Quest on DrivethruRPG. I will put a link to it in the description following the launch of the event. I can't wait. We're going to be upgrading the game a little bit during the campaign, specifically based on feedback and based on the results of the quests that the players pick it up, get back to me about. So there's more to come about that. It's really cool. This is, I'm not joking, the most interesting thing I've ever made, and I'd love it if you could help spread the word.